Eastern Finals on TNT. Welcome, everybody. Ernie Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, Kenny the Jet Smith, and Charles Barkley. Okay, so here's what we know. Andre Iguodala will not play again for Golden State. Chris Paul will not play for the Houston Rockets. How is that going to affect what Houston wants to do as they try to clinch this series here on the road? Let's hear from both of our courtside reporters, starting with Kristen Ledlow, who's covering the Rockets. Kristen, what you got?
Ernie, the last time that we saw Chris Paul was limping to the locker room after that Game 5 win in Houston. The Rocket staff at the time was not ready to determine the severity of the injury, but they were able to confirm that it was a right hamstring strain. He began receiving treatment immediately and ultimately was reevaluated yesterday and ruled out for this Game 6. I did speak with Chris Paul yesterday, and he's hopeful to return to the court this postseason. He's going to continue receiving treatment daily, and he will be reevaluated yet again once the team returns to Houston. Coach D'Antoni and James Harden addressed the media yesterday, and specifically what Game 6 will look like without Chris Paul.
Well, I mean, obviously it's not something that we wanted, or, I hate it for him above all. He's practically won us the last 2 games, but great opportunity for other guys, and we have plenty to choose from, and we'll be ready.
Business as usual. Guys got to step up and make plays. Obviously, Chris has been playing extremely well. Hopefully, a speedy recovery, which I know will happen. Opportunity like all year long for guys to step up and take advantage of an unbelievable opportunity.
Coach D'Antoni has named the reigning Sixth Man of the Year, Eric Gordon, his starter in Chris Paul's place. Eric also addressed the media yesterday and said he'd continue to attack, he'd take what the defense gives him, and he'd be ready to get this Game 6 win. For more on the Warriors, our Hall of Famer David Aldridge is standing by. DA?
Well, Kristen, the news on Andre Iguodala, as Ernie mentioned, he's out for Game 6. That bone bruise is getting better, but the nature of bone bruises is that until they completely heal, they're very, very difficult to play with. The MRI showed no structural damage. That's not the issue. It is simply that that bone is sore, and it's difficult for Andre Iguodala to move laterally, much less burst forward. And if he can't do that, there's no point in him trying to play. Now, the Warriors did get a bit of good news with Patrick McCaw. Their young second-year guard will be in uniform tonight, even though he's not expected to play in this game, and probably not in this series, even if there's a Game 7. Remember, he suffered that very frightening fall on March 31st against the Sacramento Kings. He was carted off on a stretcher, suffered a lumbar spine contusion, and it really did impact this team very much. The nature of the fall, him being carried off, really shook this team to its core at the end of the regular season. So they're very happy to see McCaw back, even though he won't be playing. So that bench that Golden State has to pick up the slack with 2 of their key guys out. They only scored 4 points total in Game 5 in Houston. They have to do better to have any chance of getting this series back to Houston on Monday night. EJ?
Yeah, DA, all this talk about the Hamptons 5 lineup that they have when Iguodala is in there, but the other night it was more like the Hampton Inn lineup. They put guys on the floor that, they had Bell out there, Livingston, West, Cook, and still, again, this time around, they'll have to make do without Andre Iguodala. We'll get more on that in just a second, but let's talk about the Rockets without Chris Paul here. And what does that do to what the Rockets want to do, Kenny?
Well, I think it definitely hurts without question, because Chris Paul has been finishing games. And, that's what he was really brought in here for, to finish games. But James Harden, individually, he passes to me more when Chris Paul is not in the game. They're going to probably go to the pick and roll here. As you see, James Harden, now you have the shooter still in the corner, but you have driving lanes a little bit more. So they'll go back to more of the pick and roll instead of the isolation, because you don't have 2 guys that can isolate. So you have to get body involved. Again, ball movement, body movement is a little bit better because of the isolation. Does it help you win games? Not all the time. So again, guys move the basketball. So freeze it here. Eric Gordon has the basketball. And instead of a straight isolation, again, Capella comes up and set it a pseudo pick and roll as it goes in. And then you figure out if he's going to get to the basket or is he going to go all the way in. You got your shooter Ariza way open in the corner. And these guys look to pass when they drive more than score. Again, Capella is going to be more involved. He's going to just be there as a brush screen. But again, you're going to have driving lanes, and then you're going to have deep corner threes if you want them, because that's going to be the opportunities that you're going to have. They're not a better team, without Chris Paul, but James Harden is a better player sometimes because he will pass. He says, I know I'm going to have it all the time now. So I think when Chris is there, a lot of times he says, well, it's my turn to score. And he doesn't get other guys involved as easily.
Well, I disagree with that.
You disagree with what part? I said a lot.
All of it.
You don't think that Chris is...
I thought it was a very impressive breakdown. And
you don't think Chris is going to be missed?
Hold on. No, yeah. Let me make
Then
my
you
point.
agree then?
No.
You say you disagree with everything, and then you're going to say, I want to hear it.
Because Chris Paul is their closer. Mike D'Antoni just said it. He single-handedly won their last 2 games. The thing that Chris Paul does better, he makes the players around him better. James is a great player, but he don't necessarily make the players around him better. This game tonight puts tremendous pressure. James has got, at some point, he's got 2 chances to have an MVP signature game. He has not had that.
Who you think is going to win the game, Chuck?
I think the Rockets are going to win.
You think the Rockets do?
I do.
How you contradicting what I'm saying?
Hold on. That's only if James Harden has a signature game. I think he's got to have one of those 50, 30 to 40 point, like a LeBron James triple-double type game if the Rockets are going to win. But let me make my point. Chris Paul's their closer. But James Harden at some point is going to have a signature game. He has melted down in the playoffs the last couple of years, but at some point, he's missed his last 23s. At some point, when you're the MVP, there comes a point where you have to say, we're going to win this game. He's got 2 games. My second point is, I think all the pressure's on Mike D'Antoni. What I mean by it is, he can't play 6 guys. He cannot play 6 guys. He's got to find some minutes. Whether it's Nene, some guys on the other side, you can't be play. You got to play these guys.
Mute is going to be back in the rotation.
But you
still might see Ryan Anderson tonight.
Yes. But you got to play 2, Ernie, because think about it. This will be counting the last game, or the last 3 games. These games are coming every other day. And now
those 14 minutes and 12 minutes came in that 40-point blowout.
The games.
Yes, that's a good point, Kenny.
The games that the Rockets have won, I agree with both of you guys, but Eric Gordon has been the key piece. So coming off the bench, doing what he's did, when he's had the opportunity to perform like that, meaning getting the ball, he's been able to do his thing. Now that he's starting, he will have more opportunity, and he has the ability. I'm not saying he's a closer like Chris Paul, but he has the opportunity to hit big, timely shots, especially in the fourth quarter.
I'm glad you brought that up because we pieced together 3 of those from the wins in Game 2, Game 4, and Game 5 from Eric Gordon. Look, if Golden State gets a stop, they can be in single digits with under 8 minutes to play, and he knocked that down, and started an 11-0 run.
It's all about opportunity.
In Game 4, it's a 2-point game.
Big shot.
And then in Game 5,
who's that pass from?
In Game 5, it's 92-91.
But he was already in rhythm right there.
And
he's feeling it
again.
He knows where to be, knows where to go. He's in rhythm. So tonight he's going to have a lot of opportunities.
He's hit 15 threes in the series. That's the most on the Rockets side.
So what you said is correct, Kenny. Shaq, those games, they got him involved early.
Got him involved.
And the house was on fire. You can't wait and give guys the ball late in the shot clock or late in the game. You got Eric Gordon, the 2 games that he's played fantastic. Rockets won.
But so let me get. You're saying that Harden has to have one of these signature games in the last 2.
Yes.
But you're also saying that Chris Paul is the Rockets' closer. But without him, you still like the Rockets tonight.
I just think I'm going to take a chance tonight that James going to have a signature game. He is not, Ernie, it's all on James. At some point, he's going to win the MVP. He deserves the MVP. But he has not had the last 2 games the Rocket won, it was Eric Gordon and Chris Paul. At some point when you're the MVP, you got to say, guys, we're going to win this game tonight. And listen.
Well, Harden did have 30 in Game 5.
Yeah, but he had all those in the first half.
In Game 4
yeah,
when they won that game.
He had all those in the first half. And when they needed those points in the second half, that's when Chris Paul and Eric Gordon came on. That game he had 30, he had 26 at halftime.
In order for the Rockets to win, everybody's going to have to step up tonight. Not just Eric Gordon and James, but P.J. Tucker had a great game one game. He's going to have to play. Mabute looks terrified out there. He's going to have to step his game up. And I agree with you.
I wasn't even aware that he existed.
Listen, the way he's playing now, I don't deserve to know his name. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has to step up.
Clint Capella got to be big tonight also.
Well, he got to get the ball, Chuck.
Well, that's what James got to get a triple-double.
Well, he will get the ball, and that's what I was saying in the video, Chuck, because they're going to run. They can't run isolation basketball with one guy.
We need to take a break, and then we're going to come back and talk about the Golden State side of things as they trailed the series 3 games to 2. Chuck took Warriors in 3. Now he's taking the Rockets in Game Game 6.
Yep.
Yes, Rick, you're hearing correctly. You've been watching like a hawk in the course of this series. This is all true. Draymond Green. But did you ever warm up with headphones on, Shaq?
No.
I mean, you can't play with him, so why would you shoot with him?
Well, they didn't have Bluetooth when we played.